One of the most famous climbing stories you will ever hear is that of a man named Beck Weathers. In 1996, Weathers attempted to climb Mount Everest. At approximately 27,000 feet above sea level, a recent surgery combined with the extreme altitude rendered Weathers functionally blind. The thought of climbing a ladder while blind would discourage most, but Weathers decided to press on to the summit, ignoring the pleas of his guide. His guide who died that same day while assisting another climber. Weathers, tied by just a short rope to another guide, decided on a tactical retreat down the mountain when they were interrupted by an enormous blizzard, disorienting the whole team. No one made it back to camp that night. An entire night spent in the middle of a blizzard without protection gave those in safety the easy assumption that Weathers had perished. And yet, he regained consciousness in the snow, breaking out of a full hypothermic coma. While fighting off severe frostbite, still battling the blindness, he managed to fight his way back to camp. Those who saw him alive, his nose and cheeks blackened by frostbite, were, needless to say, speechless. This incident claimed Weathers' hands and ended his climbing career forever, which might seem obvious, but you might be surprised how unlikely that decision is. Aaron Ralston was climbing in Blue John Canyon when a boulder trapped his arm, stranding him. Ralston remained there for 5 full days, arm crushed under the boulder, full of pain in his body and his bones, and then, like a scene out of Saw, he made the harrowing decision to amputate his own arm with his dull knife.
My name's Aaron Ralston. My parents are Donna and Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them.
I stuck the knife down in and at my thumb at that spot, and it slid in like I was sliding it into a pat of warm butter, and it went in. I couldn't feel it, of course, but it went in about a ½ inch, and then this hissing sound of gas. The decomposition gases releasing from inside my arm, my hand, where they'd been building up as my hand was decomposing over those 5 days. And that threw me into a panic. It scared me. It appalled me. It was a gruesome concept that my hand was decaying while still attached to my body.
Ralston did not quit climbing. With the aid of specialized prosthetics, he managed to solo climb all 59 of Colorado's 14,000-foot-high mountains. Joe Simpson took a tremendously bad fall while climbing in the Ciudad Grande in Peru, shattering his leg as if it were glass. The fall was so bad that his climbing partner was forced to eventually assume Simpson had died and made the grim decision to cut the rope, lest he fall in as well. However, Simpson had survived the fall and spent 3 days crawling his way back to camp with no food or water. Simpson also did not give up on climbing. He continued mountaineering for 2 decades after the incident. What is it about these mountains that are so fascinating that humans consistently refuse to allow themselves to be intimidated by them? What could be at the top that would possibly be worth it? Actually, it's extremely hard to describe the view from atop a mountain. In fact, I can't even show you a mountaintop view. I mean, I could describe it to you. I might say something like, it's a gorgeous perspective of the world that we live in. Cities, forests, roads, and nature all flattened out into one big map for you to look at and admire. The landmarks you passed on your way rendered minuscule and insignificant, and astonishing you as you marvel at how much distance you covered. And I could show you by simply placing some footage I took from a mountaintop, but no matter how hard I try when I'm up there, no matter how good of a phone camera I pay for, I can never capture all of it. Reaching a mountain peak is emotional. Mountains have a way of manifesting your self-doubt. As you continue your ascent, it can feel like you're actively fighting your own demons. As your energy reserves deplete, the voice in your head says that you'd be better off turning back, and that voice only gets louder as you climb. The only way to prove it wrong is to push on to the summit. Seeing the view from atop a mountain is flavored with that victory. I simply can't capture that flavor in a photograph. The most insidious thing about a mountain is that the lower your odds of successfully reaching the summit are, the juicier the prospect of doing so anyway become. I have a feeling that Ralston and Simpson found their desires to climb amplified rather than discouraged after their respective incidents. In fact, returning to a peak for another attempt after a failed climb is referred to as a revenge climb, as though the audacity of the mountain to remain unconquered is a personal insult to the climber. There are attempts in the climbing community to reduce the influence of summit fever on climbers and encourage a culture more supportive of descending early in the face of near certain death. As you might have surmised, this has been on my mind because of the recent game Can. I will not accept any criticism on my pronunciation of this word. It was enough pain to get this far, so just cool it. Anyway, Can is a game about climbing a mountain. You play as Ava, a world-class mountain climber determined to be the first person to ever summit Kami. The climbing mechanics are more in-depth and gripping than anything I have ever played. Allow me a quick comparison. Consider Peak, or Tears of the Kingdom. Both games will have you look at a wall, estimate its height and angle, and compare that with the length of your character's stamina bar before you make a judgment on whether or not the wall is scalable. Then you simply just hold W and left click and wait to see if you are correct. This is a serviceable approximation of what it's like to climb a surface, but it doesn't really capture the moment-to-moment judgments and decision-making that is required to climb a real wall. In Can, you control each of Ava's limbs individually, finding various hand and footholds to slowly pull yourself up a wall. Ava's stamina is a resource measured not by a big green bar, but by signs in her breathing, limb shakiness, controller vibrations. It so well captures the anxiety and panic that can really overtake a climber when they start to feel themselves slipping. The rate at which Ava's stamina is depleted is based on how secure each of your holds are. A weak foothold can be enough to push up your whole body as long as you have strong handholds, and vice versa. But if you put too much faith in a bad spot, you can slip right off, and this will happen a lot. One of the first hurdles to get over if you're serious about climbing Kami is to allow yourself to stay focused and adjust even under immense time and stamina pressure. Repeatedly, the game asks you to make do with unideal holds and risky maneuvers, and a common mistake is to simply give up and fall when the going gets tough. You can place a baton almost anywhere, which will catch you if you fall. Probably. That probably is important, because as easy as it is to think of this climb as simply one foot in front of the other, you will fall. More than once, small mistakes will lead to huge setbacks, whereas Ava's resources and the player's patience are limited. Can's relentless difficulty and focus on trying and retrying mean that, inevitably, not every player is going to make it to the top of the mountain. A few years back, Bennett Foddy's Getting Over It released, taking the gaming world by storm. In that game, your task is to climb a mountain with a hammer. The game had no resources to manage, and the mountain is far smaller than that of Kami. But Fadi is pretty clear in his intention to make a game which reminds us that not everyone is going to be up to the task.
That act of climbing, in the digital world or in real life, has certain essential properties that give the game its flavor. No amount of forward progress is guaranteed, and the player is constantly, unremittingly in danger of falling and losing everything.
Not every video game task is something which can be achieved without showing real effort, and, of course, many people quit the game well before reaching the top. Celeste is another mountain climbing game, which gained a lot of popularity. Celeste isn't so much a game about overcoming setbacks as it is a game designed to get you to believe in yourself. Before playing Celeste, I hated 2D platformers. I remember actually criticizing the whole genre as every 2D platformer is fun for a bit until the developers decide to just cover everything but 2 pixels and spikes and call it a day. And Celeste isn't not a game that will eventually cover everything in spikes but 2 pixels, but the difference is that the early stages train you so well to reach a point where you can handle that kind of challenge. The game is always, more consistently than any game I've ever played, staying just a little ahead of your skills. Just ahead enough that you question whether or not you are actually capable of reaching and meeting a challenge. But you always do, because when you're met with a truly intense challenge, you remember all the times that you felt that self-doubt. I distinctly remember telling myself I would only try the A sides, the base levels of the game. And yet, when I reached the summit of Mount Celeste, I knew I could do more. I was ready. So, I did the B sides, and with great difficulty, pushed myself up to the B side summit, until... Stop. Here. This is the moment. Right at the top. Intense music in the background that almost broke me. I had no idea how to do this section. I had no idea what was expected of me as a player. And I felt so much frustration at being so close to the top, yet unable to mount this final hurdle. However, it was my previous experiences, every failed level, every desperately fought for victory, every late night rage quit that allowed me to keep my resolve. I didn't have that resolve at the bottom of Celeste Mountain. I didn't have it halfway up. Back then, I didn't have faith in myself to do even the simple challenges. The only reason I was even trying this was because it was free on the Epic Games launcher that week. I have since bought Celeste twice more, by the way. All that empowerment I had been given allowed me to push and push and push until... Well, Madeline should have died on that cliff edge. See, Can has a really different take on this moment. Can, too, has a final challenge, the point of ultimatum, but, we'll get there. First, we need to climb Kami. Climbing Kami is an experience that, while fulfilling and exciting, is also littered with red flags. On the way up, it won't be long until you find abandoned camps, backpacks, or even corpses of those who got overconfident or careless. A little further up, and you start to find remnants of a whole civilization located in the tunnels dotting the sides of the mountain. Their bedrooms, dining halls, schools, and graveyards all support the foundation of one question. If there were so many people who spent their whole lives growing up around this mountain, learning its crevices and commuting by climb each day, how did no one ever reach the summit? As you continue your ascent, the signs of past hikers begin to dwindle, and the lost souls you do find are in increasingly grotesque positions. The theme of the climb becomes increasingly clear. Turning back is an option worth considering. You encounter another climber, Marco, who insists that reaching the summit is simply not required for achieving a satisfying climb.
If you're doubting you can make the climb, that means that your mind's already been defeated, so yeah, I think you should go back down.
You know what? I'm fine with that. I'm already super happy to climb every day. I dig it.
You climb, you fail, and then?
Then I go back down, set up a cozy spot in my van, and watch a nice TV show on my laptop.
That's it.
I mean, that's all you need, right?
Is it?
Higher up, amid the corpses of those who couldn't give up, you'll find notes and stories detailing their desperation to just go a little higher. Their unwillingness to descend, even for their own safety, is the reason that you find them destroyed here. Ava receives several voice messages from her beloved. She is supportive, but cannot hide her lack of understanding. Ava's telecommunicator consistently serves reminders of what is waiting for her down below, the people who love her, and what she stands to lose by pushing this hard, constantly re-enter her mind through the telecommunicator.
Play the message.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
As she climbs, these messages start to get more desperate.
Why? Why did you leave? Why do you feel the need to climb that big, stupid rock?
Her loved ones begging her not to continue, and in Ava's eyes, their purpose shifts from kind-hearted encouragement to frustrating distractions, designed only to prevent Ava from reaching her goal.
Ah! 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 She doesn't get it. She doesn't get any of it.
The corpses never stop, and only get more undignified as you climb. My most deeply embedded memory is of the Needle, this brutal late-game climb, forcing you to scale up a narrow pillar coated in risky holds, dead-end roots, and rock so dense your pitons become dead weight. As I tackled this impossible task, my finger gripping into the controller so tightly I felt like I was the one holding on for dear life. My focus was so deep and immense, the last thing I expected was to be distracted by the environment. But sure enough, as I approached the top, I saw them. 3 corpses dangling in a most ignominious manner, each one tied to the last and strewn down the side of the cliff I was now approaching. The very equipment intended to keep them safe now holding them up for all to see as the most authentic warning for the extreme danger ahead. Their empty bodies would ascend no further, but to the sheer difficulty of even reaching their point of progression, they would never descend either. Their permanent place in the world marked here by their determination to climb.
Everybody dies, Marco. I mean, why not die on this mountain? There are worse places.
But you don't mind dying alone?
Well, I mean, most people who die of old age will die alone at home. Only in movies do old people die surrounded by their families. You're asking if I'm scared? No. No, I'm not.
If you'll allow me to return to the real world for a moment, Mount Everest has about 200 corpses that still scatter the mountain today, too high up and too dangerous and risky to even attempt removing. The more you consider it, the more the sight of the mountain becomes a lot more fierce, like the growl of a tiger telling you to back off. Cammy is not your friend. One of the last structures you will see, right before the Needle in fact, is the highest point of civilization that once made this mountain its home. Inside, you can light a signal flame to display your intent to the whole surrounding area. Will you go for the summit, or will you return to the surface alive? But of course, this is just a demonstration of intent. Soon enough, you'll be at your own ultimatum. Just like that final B-side challenge in Celeste, you will reach a point in Can where you will need to decide definitively whether or not you're going to make that final push. After you scale the needle, cross the bridge, and climb over the next crest, you will enter the final refuge, in which sits a warning. A climber who once tried the same last push of Cammy. He begs you not to go for the climb. He emphasizes how much of the final section isn't a matter of skill or determination, but simply a roll of cosmic dice. A completely unpredictable and unforgiving, overhanging climb that threatens in all seriousness to take away everything that matters to you.
Climbing grades become meaningless about this point. The ice is crumbly no matter what time of the year, and whole sections shear off regularly. Edges are sharp enough to slash ropes and hands. Any hold could fall apart. I've seen 3 outcomes for everyone who attempted to go up. They either end up at the bottom of the gorge, or an ice spike planted through the head, or frozen to death as they stubbornly kept trying.
Inside his abode, you can find a graveyard to those who fell during the attempt. It's not decorated like I thought it would be, with their skulls, or with candles, or gravestones. No, in a moment that pulled my heart far more than I ever could have expected, the graveyard was filled with backpacks. What better symbol of a fallen climber than an abandoned backpack? To even make it to this point, you would have had to rummage through several other abandoned backpacks just like these ones. You would have spent meticulous time sorting, organizing, and cramming full your own backpack. Every person that has ever gone on a real climb or hike has carried a pack of supplies. It is the ascender's best friend, and something that would only be left behind in death. Seeing so many lined up before you hits harder than any warning because it gets into the mind of the climber. It is the only way to break through the fog of summit fever and allow a climber to visualize just how much life had been thrown away in the attempt of this climb. So then, the game, full of its many warnings, counterpoints, and assurances of death, finally poses the true question: will you descend safely? Or will you throw away everything just for the chance at continuing? Of course you continue. Everyone does. How could you not? In my attempt, things had been going well. It's brutal, but they were going well. There are no more ancient abandoned buildings to hide in, no caves to give yourself a breather and refill your canteen, no fallen backpacks to loot. Your climb is on a definitive and dangerous timer ticking down until you freeze to death. This kind of pressure can make even the easy sections unbearably stressful. Only 2 more walls from the top. The walls are coated in ice, so pure I imagine it feels like climbing a bar of soap. I misplaced my hand. I fell. Just like the old climber Alfatri said, my baton broke free as if I hadn't placed it down at all. Canonically, for me, Ava's story would have ended right there. Hours of painstaking effort gone, her partner left alone and distraught, another backpack for the pile, another permanent, desperate warning telling anyone who had climbed that far to turn back. And yet, it's impossible not to sympathize with her.
I had these insecurities of really if I was adequate enough, if I was good enough, if I was good at anything. And then in order to feel something, I had to be in riskier environments.
With everyone else who attempts to climb, both fictional and real, no matter the risk, regardless of the fact that our only way to happiness and safety lies below us, something out there just still keeps pulling our gaze upward, always.
Are you bringing food again?
Not right now.
Talked about this.
Not right now.
You were.
I feel like I can't, in good conscience, complete this video without acknowledging the other climbing game released this year. See, Can has you play a top-of-the-line, world-class climber. But Baby Steps, on the other hand, has you play as Nate, an overweight, 35-year-old loser watching One Piece repeatedly in his parents' basement. At the beginning of the game, Nate is teleported from his basement to a strange marsh where the only thing to do is go up. The atmosphere of Baby Steps is very different from Can. Where Can is a very serene and introspective experience, Baby Steps has a much more comedic vibe, at least at first.
Oh, can you not?
It's just I didn't.
Yeah, let's go back in time to when you didn't.
No, I was just trying to catch it with my, sorry.
With your foot, yeah, you tried to catch it.
I saw it was starting to go, and I just tried to...
Nate stumbles over his words and can't string a single sentence together. Meanwhile, everyone he encounters pushes him so hard, sometimes going as far to straight up bully him. The real meat of Nate's story is primarily told through these optional hats you can find. Each one of them will present you with a small minigame that reveals more of Nate's troubled past, kind of Five Nights at Freddy's style. Common themes include his father pushing him to be something he isn't, or his social incapability preventing him from forming relationships, or his sister, Cassie, talented and smart, and doomed to overshadow Nate for his entire life. It slowly becomes easier to understand why Nate is the way he is. Bennett Foddy is a game developer who has always pushed for the importance of effort. Getting Over It was a game about the value in starting over, and Nate is a character whose life would be full of setbacks and discouraging experiences.
Sorry.
Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a little thing for your sister. You know Cassie got a promotion, right?
No.
It's a big deal.
Is it big?
And we're gonna do just drinks and snacks. Your mother wants you to come up. And
Well, it's, yeah.
can you do me a favor?
Uh-huh.
Maybe not sweatpants.
How many times can he really be expected to work from behind before giving up? I don't think it's a coincidence that Baby Steps is, especially in comparison to Can, hard as hell. Similar to Can, you control Nate's limbs individually, with a few important differences. The first one being that you can only control his legs, which means you can't use his arms for balance or support. Second, you are always controlling his legs. Even the most mundane moments of traversal, you will be forced to manually place one foot in front of the other every single time. And messing it up, even in a small, easy part, can cause you to tumble so bad, picking up momentum until you fall all the way down. Nate's balance and discoordination can very often make every step be the difference between a minuscule amount of progression and a fall that can set you back hours. One takeaway I get from comparing Can and Baby Steps is the perspective of challenge. If Ava was placed into Nate's body and circumstances, would she be able to climbing this mountain? Would she have enough determination to continue trying? If you were born in Nate's shoes, wouldn't you want to give up too?
Again.
Despite all the ways that Nate fails to dexterously navigate social situations, the consistent theme in his dialogue is that he just doesn't want to be a burden to anyone.
Oh, that's okay. Can I go?
He doesn't refuse pairs of shoes or downplay his need for the toilet because he hates other people or because he's ignoring his own needs. He just doesn't want to feel like he's dragging others down. One of my favorite scenes comes later in the game when you are forced into a pitch-black cave. Nate's friend Jim offers him a lantern, and as he typically does, Nate refuses, partially out of his aforementioned fear of burdening others, and partially out of a fear of being bullied for it.
I'll just crawl. I'm good at crawling. I'll feel my way around.
After stumbling through the dark for a bit, another friend, Moose, laments over similar fears to Nate and asks if he could take the lantern as a favor. And only then, for the first time in the whole game, Nate accepts the gift. Of course, you can't leave the cave without being bullied for your witty little lantern.
Oh, scared of the dark? Mommy packed you a little lantern.
There are no correct choices for Nate. Just like Can, a large portion of Baby Steps has you climbing a mountain while pondering a question. Among the higher reaches of the mountain, there is a temple where Nate can be granted a single wish. On the way up, he meets a variety of characters which were also granted their own single wish, and they speculate with Nate about what he should wish for. The most obvious answer is he wants to go home. He wants to leave this strange place and return to what he knows. But in the process of climbing, it can be really easy to start to doubt whether that's a good idea. Fellow climber Mike is both physically and optimistically superior to Nate and ponders what to wish for.
No, I don't have any dependents. I'm just a loser in Australia. So,
Oh, that's
yeah, I
too
was
bad.
thinking more something in the vein of save the whales. You
Oh,
know,
save the whales.
yeah,
Yeah.
nuclear disarmament.
Yeah. Oh, those are good too.
Why go back? He posits. This place is beautiful. It's simple. You can't die. It's completely disconnected from the challenges of life. You climb, you fall, you try again, you become better. It's as uncomplicated as that. And that's what makes it so great. I really love how well this conversation mirrors a similar scene in Cannes, where Marco is trying to understand Ava's mentality, trying to break her out of her deep-welled summit fever. We don't see much of Ava's life down below, but it's clear that it can be far more complicated than the mountain. She's in a relationship with a partner that doesn't share her interests. She doesn't enjoy the publishing aspect to her work. Her cat died recently. For as difficult and unrelenting a challenge as it is to climb a mountain, the goal is clear and simple. Go up, but don't give up.
I don't know. Things are so easy here. The goal is clear. It's a climb that's entirely up to me. Exactly what I can't have in life down below. They can't give me what the mountain gives me.
That's it. A linear path of challenges and obstacles which will grant you as much patience as you can afford to give. Climbing a mountain won't be a messy or cloudy challenge. Cammy won't ask you how to get over the death of a loved one, or how to mend a deteriorating relationship, or how to continue to survive in a world where it feels like the walls are closing in more each day. All Cammy asks of you is that you keep pushing uphill through the risk and the pain and the exhaustion. As you climb the mountain, it can heal you of the scars left on our soul by the hustle and bustle of life below, and the risk of climbing or falling starts to look more like a win-win. Either you conquer the mountain and you gain all the self-worth or validation or whatever you might have been seeking, or you fall and die, and the outside world never gets the opportunity to reclaim you.
Listen, they want me to wish for cigarettes. But okay. I guess I'm doing it then. I wish. I was dead.
Any mountain can be a frustrating, if therapeutic, experience. The granny from Celeste describes her mountain as a place of healing. Getting over it is literally titled after the metamorphic effect that taking on that kind of challenge can bring. It's possible that a mountain has just as much of a possibility of entrapping you as a difficult life down below does. At the end of Cannes, if you do make the decision to descend Mount Cami rather than take the suicide pact that is the final section, it becomes clear that Ava, although alive, is never really able to let go of that defeat. Cannes represents the mountain not as an inspiring goal to be achieved, but as an affliction, cursing her, dooming her to either climb the impossible climb or battle its demon in her head for all time. These mountains are there for us. They heal us, and they offer a valuable escape from the immense challenges of life. But they are not our friends. It's more like morphine, relieving pain while insidiously addicting us at the same time, using our innate desire to grow and strengthen and become better against us until we can't survive without thinking about the next foothold. If you're struggling with something, unable to cope with whatever misfortune has been sent your way, it can be a good idea to make the effort. Continue the climb, see the view, experience the restoration, but know that you cannot remain forever. Do not cling to the side of the wall. It's not going to be safe forever. Happy travels.
I'm going down the road feeling bad. Lord, I'm going down the road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad. And I ain't gonna be treated this way.